member of the Victorian Parliament, the place that represents democracy in our state and in our nation. I welcome the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Finance, Robert Scott. He's been the first Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, all of our very important people from Sydney, Minister Dr. Quang, President of the BCA, Mr. Bon Nguyen, Mr. Paul Nguyen from New South Wales, our members of the BCA, Vic from Nguyen, Dick Chan, all of our important guests and our speakers today, Father Peter Huang and Mr. Pango, all representatives of the media and members of the community, our veterans, each and every one of you, welcome. Today is about the Australia and Vietnam strategic partnership, and we don't really care what's happening at the federal level. We just want to focus on Australia and Vietnam strategic partnership and the impact on human rights. Before I commence, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. That is my introduction. I'd like now to welcome the Honourable Marsha Thompson, who is the sponsor for our event today, to welcome and acknowledge everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Viv, and welcome to everybody. And I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, their elders, both past and present. And of course to the Minister, Dr. Scott, to our Shadow Minister, and to whom is here as well, and to our special guests who are here, to Bon Nguyen, and to the friends of our Vietnamese community here in Victoria and Australia. I'm going to be very brief because this is not just the event that I am hosting today. It is being hosted by a number of Labor MPs, including Luke Donnellan, the Minister for Roads, Natalie Suleiman, the member for St Albans, Marlene Carews, the member for Cororoy, Natalie Hutchins, and Caesar Mellon. So the Western Suburbs Labor members are actually hosting this event today. I want to acknowledge and thank them for their contribution in making this possible. I unfortunately am going to have to duck away in a little bit because I have to do something with the Premier, but I will try and return and come back. Can I just say how important this is? We're having a bit of a struggle with democracy ourselves at the moment, but the one thing that we all value is the fact that everyone has an opportunity to express what they think and what they believe in within the realms of reason, so that we don't incite violence and we don't incite hatred. But apart from that, people are allowed to express their views, and they're allowed to express them freely and openly. They're also allowed to go to a ballot box and by secret ballot vote for a government. And we know that there are issues in Vietnam at the moment around the freedom to have those choices, the ability to speak up and be heard and not be punished for it. The ability to go and have a free vote and vote for real parties with real opposing policies and values. So I think this is an important day for us to be having it here, and it's a reminder to all of us who are elected representatives that we have a responsibility to the people who put us into Parliament to make sure that we, when we consider what we do, that we put them first and foremost, and that the policies that we put forward are the ones that will better their lives, and that we need to remember that every single day that we walk through the doors into this Parliament, and that should be what motivates us every single day. And on that note, I'm going to finish, but I want to say a big thank you to the Vietnamese community for all the support that it's given me over the years, because this is my last year as a member of Parliament. And it has been an absolute privilege to be able to work so closely with the Vietnamese community for the past, it actually is the whole, almost the whole of the 19 years, because my first connection with the Vietnamese community was when I was a minister and a member of the Upper House. So I want to say thank you very much, because you've enriched my life. So thank you, and I look forward to keeping in touch. And I know this will be a great session today, and I'll try and get back so I can hear from the speakers. Thank you.
We will start with the speaking session from Mr. Quang, followed by Father Peter Huang, and then we'll open up for questions and answers if you have any questions for the speakers and the VCAB in general. Ladies and gentlemen, you would have seen, heard, and met Mr. Quang for all of the years he's been in public life, being a former diplomat from the former Republic of Vietnam, escaping Vietnam on a very tiny rickety boat by himself, I understand, and came to Australia, became a lawyer, ran SBS for a number of years, and is still involved in public life to this day. He has taken an analysis of the strategic partnership between Australia and Vietnam that was signed early in March this year between our PM and the government of Vietnam. And he will share with us what that strategic partnership looks like and from the angle of the human rights perspective. Please put our hands together for the very eminent Mr. Lưu Tường Quang.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the Vivian Queen. I'm delighted to be here today. Welcome to this very special session to the Minister and the Shadow Minister from the Multicultural Affairs of Victoria Parliament, religious leaders, and of course members of the media and other distinguished members of the civil society in Victoria. I am very indebted to the organizers for the invitation. Before I start, because of the event today, I'd like to tell a true story. There was a vice president of a very big country who came to Australia in June 2010. He met the Prime Minister in Canberra. Then he flew to Darwin. He got off the plane in Darwin. Australia had another Prime Minister. That was Canberra being deposed and Julie Gillard became Prime Minister. The reason I'm saying that, because that Vice President was affecting Southeast. And he could not understand why people who can change Prime Minister in that way. And that shows one thing that is important, the democracy in Australia and the dictatorship in China. And that is what the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Julie Bishop, said before he left for Vietnam in May 2018. She said that in spite of the difference in values and system, Vietnam and Australia converge their national interests together in other parts of the relationship. So what I try to say today, because the anniversary of the 45th anniversary of the relationship between Australia and the then Democratic Republic of Vietnam, and then after that the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, that was highlighted as an important event for, among other things, the signing of the strategic partnership by our Prime Minister, by our former Prime Minister, Martin Turnbull, and the Prime Minister of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, Mr. Phu. The reason I mention that, because I think it's important to see the difference, and also to see the history of the relationship between the two people. The Prime Minister then, the two Prime Ministers and the two Foreign Ministers always highlighted the role by Vietnamese community in Australia and vice versa in Vietnam in terms of bringing the two countries together. From that point of view, I like to put the record straight, and that is that the relationship between Vietnam and Australia started on the 8th of February 2015, 1950, when Australia recognized Vietnam as a divided, independent country. And then 2 years later, the Australian embassy in Saigon was over. Then, after the Geneva Accord, the country was divided. Australia continued to recognize the Republic of Vietnam or South Vietnam as the representative of Vietnam as a whole. You may not be aware that during that time of happy relationship between the two countries, President Ngo Dinh Diem, President of South Vietnam, or the Republic of Vietnam, was the first ever foreign head of state visited Australia. The reason I say that foreign because only the Queen had come to Australia before him. That was very important, I think, milestone in the relationship between the two countries. And then in 1957, the first or the seventh conference, International Conference of the Global Plan was held in Saigon, opened the door for many young and talented Vietnamese students to Australia. So this history, the political history between Canberra and Saigon lasted for 35 years. The political history between Canberra and Hanoi lasted and continued to last 45 years. But the relationship, the people-to-people relationship between the two countries is now, in fact, 68 years and continue. That's very important. And within the context, I'd like to give a quote by the Prime Minister of Vietnam on the 15th of March 2018, when he said, with the translation into English, Prime Minister Winston Fook said, during the state dinner hosted by the Australian Prime Minister, I announced, that means the Prime Minister of Vietnam announced, that we'll have about 300,000 Vietnamese in Australia, including many excellent scientists. When I read that, I couldn't help but thinking, why he said such a thing? I think he discovered a fact that is unknown to the Prime Minister of Australia. And not only that, the 300,000 Vietnamese living in Australia, in fact, consists of so many ex-refugees or political refugees fleeing from the communist regime in Vietnam. So the Vietnamese Prime Minister has no credit in claiming that particular point in the history of Australia and Vietnam. And also, not only the Vietnamese side of the SRV side, but also in the Australian side, the Prime Minister of Australia and the Foreign Minister of Australia always refer to the fact that there are 300,000 strong Vietnamese Australian community in Australia, and that's very important part in the relationship. My point is, if in fact 300,000 of us staying here play an important part in the relationship between the two countries, then the voices and aspirations of these 300,000 Vietnamese Australians should be listened to by the government and should be, to the extent possible, implemented in terms of improving the human rights record in Vietnam. I need some equipment, but can you come help me with this one? Yeah. Okay, so we look back. The starting point in terms of the relationship, which is important, was in 2009. That's when the head of the Communist Party of Vietnam, known as Secretary General of the Politburo, that's Mr. Don Nguyen, came to Canberra. And according to private sources. He intended to push for a strategic relationship between Australia and Vietnam. But the Prime Minister of the time, Kevin Rudd, said that the relationship in reality is not the fact that state. So finally, they signed the comprehensive relationship, and the one who signed that statement is in fact the word Julian Gillard, as Deputy Prime Minister, and Mr. Phạm, as Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister. Then we had the next step is when Nguyễn Tấn Dũng, the Prime Minister, came to Australia in 2015, and they writed to the enhanced relationship. And then finally, on the 15th of March 2018, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc came and they signed a strategic relationship, partnership between Australia and Vietnam. If we look at how human rights figure in those three stages of relationship, we found very little. In 2009, there was a reference to the human rights. The next day, in 2015, there's another short 3 words human rights annual dialogue at the country. In 2015, a little bit longer, but nothing. The reason being because the annual human rights dialogue between the two countries started in 2002. If we look back from 2009 to 2018, we have seen, or we could see, a very line important in terms of the convergence of national interest in the sphere of defense and security, in trade and in commerce, in technology cooperation, in education. But we don't see anything moving in terms of the human rights. And that is my point. My point is that while during the 10 years or so, the relationship in other matters, political, economic, and social, and education, converged. But the discussion in terms of the human rights in Vietnam did not make any meaningful progress. So how we can improve that situation? I cut it short because we are also listening and going to listen to Father Peter Wang. If we look at the past, my suggestion to all of you is that Australia quiet diplomacy in terms of the annual human rights dialogue has failed to improve the record of human rights in Vietnam, where our interests can be improved. So how can we try to help or try to advance the human rights in Vietnam from now on? My suggestion is that there are quite a few opportunities. The first would be that Foreign Minister Julie Bishop has announced the review of the soft power of Australia. In terms of the review of the soft power in Australia, we should, I believe, identify the role played by Australia in terms of helping Vietnam to advance politically and economically. That's, for example, after the signing of the comprehensive relationship partnership in 2009, there would be a method following up the agreement between Australia and the SRB in terms of defense cooperation. It is known as MOU signed by the then Minister for Defense, Mr. Stephen Smith. And then in 2012, the two countries started to have dialogue in terms of diplomacy and and defense and security. It's known as 2+2. But it's not at the ministerial like between US and Australia, like OSMIN or OCMIN or in another way. But it is limited at the vice minister level. Why that has been upgraded to the ministerial level? What happened to the annual human rights dialogue is that it was still done by officials, by public servants from the Australian point of view. Then Australia started a program of helping the Vietnamese armed forces to be involved in the peace, retention of peace movement or peaceful keeping by the UN. All those things are important to Vietnam. Provided assistance, this is a good system provided by Australia. But between the two countries, in bilateral basis, Australia has given Vietnam a lot of money in terms of the ODA. In fact, Vietnam was still the biggest recipient of Australian offshore development assistance. With all those things, one would have thought that if Australia can manage their soft power in a global way, then Australia could influence the way the Vietnamese government, the Communist government, treating its population. On the other hand, it's sad to say that the situation in terms of human rights is going very backward in Vietnam. This photo says everything in terms of the freedom of expression. This is Father Lee, Father Nguyen Van Lee, and Father Nguyen Van Lee. When he appeared in court, he would deny the opportunity to say something to his defense. And this was not a propaganda photo, it was taken by the AFP and from press. And it says something, everything about the situation in Vietnam. I'd like to show you another photo. This is a very peaceful activist for human rights in Vietnam. He was put in jail, and one particular person, I'd like to say this one, in recognition of an exception in society of Australian approach is concerned. So if you consider the way the US government conducted itself in terms of improving human rights in Vietnam, the US is very outspoken. The US always not reluctant to say something in public, to influence the public opinion, not only in the US but also around the world. Australia, on the other hand, seldom criticized the human rights violation in Vietnam. Because then the Permanent Foreign Affairs and the Australian government, whether either labor or the coalition, believe that white supremacy works. I don't believe that. That doesn't mean that we don't recognize some exceptions. The exception is when Bokha was foreign minister. He went to Vietnam. He specifically mentioned this particular jury. And together with the public opinion by the US, this jury was released and he's now living in the United States. But the reason I show his photo, not because of the fact that he was a peaceful activist, but it's because what he said, of Communist Vietnam using prisoner conscience as commodity to barter for other interests. And insofar as that community is concerned, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam has a reserve of so many other people. The reason because under the pressure of Western countries, they release certain number of people. And then when they have the benefit in return. They are versatile people. So that is the way they release and capture and try and represent people as part of the bargaining tools to get the benefit. What we have said, and we said so many times, and not only that they have released prisoner consent, but they have also changed their law. But particularly more important, not just changing the law, but also changing the practice. Their practice is oppressive, their practice is using force to talk to people. So they are not only achieve their political and economic objectives, but they also infringe of the obligation as a member of the United Nations. They infringe their obligation in terms of their signature of the ICCPR, that is International Convention on Political and Social Rights, and also they infringe the Convention Against Torture. That's for example, during the demonstration of the 10th of June a few months ago, they captured people and they maltreated people regardless of the public opinion and regardless of the obligation against torture. So what I'm saying is that we can't be silent. We need to raise our voice. And the Vietnamese community, the VCA, have many times made submission to the government, to the parliament, and to the defense department. I just like to mention two, because the national president at the time were here in this room. One of the submissions was done in the year 2011 and 12, when Phong Nguyen was the national president and ECM history. We recommended to the government that in terms of negotiation, discussion of human rights with the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, there should be number one, accountable in terms of the donation ODA by FAD to Vietnam. Number two, in terms of discussion of human rights, we don't wait to August every year to raise that by official, and that is the annual dialogue on human rights. We recommend that the government should have a whole of government approach, and that means that everywhere, if the Prime Minister seeing his counterpart or the Foreign Minister seeing his counterpart, then human rights is a standing point for the agenda. I did raise it. I had the honor to see Prime Minister Julia Gillard in Sydney on the 22nd of May 2012. And I answered that question. I said, Prime Minister, have you ever raised human rights in Vietnam with anyone? She said, every time she saw her counterpart, that is the Prime Minister, she raised it. And there's no reason I doubt that went through. My point is that after that, Tony Abbott or Malcolm Turnbull never did. And I hope that the Prime Minister, we will know who they are tonight or tomorrow, would change that attitude. Now we look to the future. With the review of soft power of Australia, and with the very generous donation by Australia to Vietnam, and with the partner in terms of the strategic partnership, Australia should be strong enough and should be friendly enough to the Socialist Republic of Vietnam to raise their voice, to raise our voice, to say, now look, as a friend, as a partner, you did what you did is wrong. Rather than just say, we have different values and we have different systems, but we enjoy conversion of national interests, so we call one part of the relationship to get out of the relationship. I think it's wrong. I started our conversation by referring to the event of CCP visiting Australia in 2010. He couldn't understand why Australia can send Prime Minister the way he did. That's because Communist China and Communist Vietnam think things differently. Take, for example, the question of human rights. Human rights, according to the Charter of the United Nations, and human rights, according to the Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations, are in fact a universal value, universal value. It's true in the US, it's true in the UK, it's true in Australia, it's true in Vietnam, it's true in China. But you remember in the mid-1990s or the last century, there was a human rights conference in Vienna, Austria, and Beijing and Hanoi argued very strongly that values, cultural values, human rights values are not universal. They try to argue the exception for the country. And I think it's wrong too, because if they are members of the United Nations, they have to accept the universality of human rights. And if it's the case, then 8 members of the United Nations, both Australia and Vietnam, will have the obligation to advance human rights in their own country, and also to assist other people to improve the human rights. Vietnam has been going backward, and the reason I'm saying because historically, if we look at the value enjoyed by Vietnam, by Vietnamese nation, you would see that from the 15th century until the 18th century, that was about 3-4 centuries ago, Vietnam has enjoyed a basic human right in what known as the Lê Code, or the Công Đức, where the status of women was recognized. At that time, the Western world still treat still treat women as cattle. So in many ways, the Vietnamese history shows that we share already then in the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century, the universality of human rights. So to argue that universality of human rights is not something new. And Australia should, and I think would be able to argue that, to ensure that we, both countries, advance their relationship in terms of the strategic partnership, should be able to say to one another, if you're wrong in treating the origin of Australia in that way, then you're also wrong in treating advocates for human rights and democracy in that way. That is something I look forward to the future. And I think you are, as members of the Victorian government, and you are leaders of the civil society in Victoria, and you are community leaders from either here or outside, have a voice and our obligation to ensure that our country, our government, our state government, our Victorian government raise their voice to help Australia to fulfill its role as a member of the United Nations in terms of advancing the human rights in Vietnam. Thank you for your attention. The last one I'd like to say, because I could not see you speak, is that the difference between Australia and the US is very, very telling. You see the ambassador, the US ambassador visiting the jail head of the Vietnamese Unified Police Church, Lưu Tường Quang, where the Australian ambassador and the Australian Consul General in Cyber would never not such a thing. I think it's important as a gesture to make sure that we care. And the visit is a very powerful in terms of the photo. That photo worth 100,000 words. And that's important that we should ask our diplomats to do what is right in terms of fighting for democracy and human rights in Vietnam without encroaching into their sovereignty. Thank you.
On this speech from Mr. Lưu,
democracy being a strategic partnership with Vietnam, I think that Australia has an obligation to remind Vietnam of that. And particularly, you mentioned about Australia has failed Vietnam in terms of human rights, and I think that is very right. It's correct, absolutely correct. I have sat down with a number of people to discuss that, and they tend to think that Australia see that Vietnam geographically very important for Australia. That's why they want to appease the Vietnamese government. But at the same time, if that's the mindset from the Australian politicians, how else can we effectively conversing with them to raise the issue that actually, yes, human rights issue is actually important, but maybe for them it's not the first priority. How would we, from the Vietnamese community perspective, how can we...
Of course, every government has priority, but the point is that it is basic and it's relevant to the values that we hold very close to our mind. Then if there's a will, there's a way to achieve it. Now, because the bonding with federal president raised the point, and I was also the Honourable Hong Lim just coming into the audience. I'd like to add one good point which I did not include it earlier, and that is that insofar as the national BCA, the National Women's Organizations, recently about 3-4 weeks ago, they also submit or send a submission, including not only the solidarity between members of the United Nations in terms of fighting human rights in Vietnam, but also the fighting or also the suggestions that Australia should consider to pass legislation similar to Magnitsky in the US and Canada. And the reason I'm saying that because the Honourable Hong Lim originally came from Cambodia, and we know that they just have so-called election, which was condemned by Australia. It's not a fair and open election. My point is that if Australia considers that as a drawback or as a step backward from democracy, then at least we see there was, but there has been some democracy in Cambodia. In Vietnam, in the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, there has never been a step backward from democracy. Why? Because there has never been any democracy. And that's why it's important to stress that point. If Australia can express their view in terms of the fairness of the election, why Australia was silent in terms of the election in the Socialist Republic of Vietnam? That's one point. The other point is that if you listen to the ABC 2-3 weeks ago, you would know that among the millionaires coming to settle Australia, the top in the list was from the PRC, the People's Republic of China. The second in that list is from the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Why there's so many millionaires from China and from Vietnam and from Cambodia to invest millions and millions of dollars in Australia? Where did the huge money come from? So that's why it's very important to have Magnitsky like legislation in Australia, so that you can identify corrupt officials, violators of human rights, and people who enrich themselves by exploiting other people living in Australia. We have to expose them, and Australia as a society, Australia as a democracy, should be able to treat them differently in terms of the law. Thank you.
I will take a couple more observations or questions from Mr. Quang before we get on to the next speech. Bob, your voice is loud, I'm sure.
Mr. Quang, how strategic is it when the people of Vietnam right now have their patriotic concerns to the influence and belligerence of China into the sovereignty of Vietnam have been prosecuted, beaten up to the demonstration to the whole world to see. And yet Australia signed up to strategic partnership with Vietnam in terms of security? How important do you think that the people of Vietnam, particularly those who are concerned about Vietnam, can be able to be respected, their right to be respected as citizens of Vietnam, to stand up against the threat of foreign interference as well, foreign their sovereignty at risk? How important is it to the people of Vietnam in terms of the strategic partnership between Australia and Vietnam? Because if the Vietnam people cannot do that to protect their own country, and if Vietnam become the next star in the China's flag, then how dangerous it is to Australia's interests and security.
So if I put my hand on if I put a hand on my head as Australian, I would not oppose the strategic partnership between Vietnam and Australia. Because that, in many ways, also in Australia. The exception only when Australia receives benefit, but ignore the other part of Australia. That's for example. If you look at almost every statement, joint statement between SRB and Australia, they always mention about the South China Sea, or we call it the Đông of the East. If we look at the three documents establishing comprehensive partnership, enhanced comprehensive partnership, and strategic partnership, the question this is democracy. The threat of China in the South China Sea always there. In a different nuance, diplomatic nuance, economic language, but it's still there. But while Australia and Vietnam share the strategic interest in the South China Sea, Australia does almost nothing in terms of protecting the human rights of the Vietnamese people. Thanks to the Hội Nam in 2015, during the drill 1991, there was a lot of Vietnamese demonstrating against China. What happened? The Vietnamese government arrested and tortured those people. So on the one hand, the two governments share the same strategic interest in the South China Sea or the East Sea, and on the other hand, Australia ignored the right of the Vietnamese to express their view. That is rather enjoying the commonality of strategic interest, but ignoring the violation of human rights by the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. That's one point. The other one is it's important that Australia and Vietnam, Australia as an advanced middle power, Vietnam as a developing country, join their forces together to ensure that the rule of law is respected, to ensure that the world power cannot use their might to threaten the modern country. I also like to quote one thing. About 5 weeks ago, the Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives, Mr. Anthony Smith, he went to Vietnam. He was received by the Politburo Secretary General of Kutra, the Prime Minister, and also the President of the so-called Vietnamese National Assembly. All three of them said to the Australian Speaker of the lower house that we share the same page in terms of the strategic issue of the South China Sea. So if the Socialist Republic of Vietnam can look to Australia in the eyes and say we share the same thing, then why Australia does not use that as an opportunity to say, oh, we can improve, and we can rule human rights too. My point is that we Australia, approach human rights as separate, low priority, where the Vietnamese community and the Phong Viên or some of the Bon Viên, we always argue that in terms of improving human rights in Vietnam, Australia should approach on the basis of whole government. So whenever the Prime Minister says, we have discussed our commonality, and that includes human rights. When the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate, they do the same thing. The fact that they don't is a great disappointment to me and to the Vietnamese community, because if we wait until August every year, a middle-ranking Australian public servant talking to someone in similar position in Vietnam, there's no way for that to be going to the breaking point. The breaking point has to be the leader of the Australian delegation should be at ministerial level, assisted by specialists, assisted by experts in the field, but it has to be at the ministerial, it has to be the political level, otherwise there's no way to achieve anything. Thank you. Please.
Thank you. We have Inga Pelish, the Shadow Minister of Agricultural Affairs. We'll take this as a final one and then we'll go on to the next session. Thank you.
And then actually the question all to you and your leadership feel through.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity of attending. I note that the event is wholly sponsored, hosted by members of the AOP. I would have thought that a really important platform would be to have a multi-party approach to your position. And there's been a few swings taken at the federal Liberal government, which was very generous in opening the doors to Vietnamese refugees. Could you perhaps explain what representations you've made to the federal Liberal government on this platform and when?
Thank you, Inga, for that question. The initial request was the state member for first grade, the Honourable Marsha Thompson, who I happen to live in the electorate. So that's how the event happened. In Victoria Parliament, we do have the Victorian Parliamentary Friendship with the Vietnamese community that comprises the Honourable Lưu Tường Quang, Mr. Marsha Thompson, and Mr. Bernie Finn. And they were also approached to assist us at this particular event. In terms of the other members of the Labour Party that have sponsored other specifics of this particular event, that was only made known to me by the Honourable Marsha Thompson last night. So that's how it happened. In terms of presenting our issues...
Sorry, so what does that mean in terms of sponsorship?
Right,
this is a free event.
Yeah,
so costs.
Yeah.
And anything that happens in Parliament should always be sponsored and hosted by all the political parties.
So there is a cost associated with this event, and that is the venue hire and the venue hire, not the venue hire, the tea and coffee out there. That is $8.50 per person, and the sound and the equipment cost, and that is the sound and equipment cost that was sponsored by various members that the Honourable Marsha Thompson has mentioned.
No one's approached us to contribute to that. So.
I did not approach the Honourable Marsha Thompson for that cost reimbursement either.
The second type of question is what representations you make to the federal Liberal government in relation to
the human rights issues? Yeah.
Well, to a different approach to what you would label as their failed soft diplomacy.
I think that is a question better answered by Mr. Bon Nguyen, President of the Vietnamese community in Australia. So this is the second time the Victorian chapter of the VCA hosts this event, and that arose from the friendship between in the Victorian Parliament by the Honourable Lưu Tường Quang, Mr. Bernie Finn and Mr. Marsha Thompson, two of whom are members of the Liberal Party or the opposition. And I think, would you like to answer that question directly to Ms. Inga Pelish from here, please? This is more, the human rights issues is more of a national issue. Victoria chapter plays our part by presenting the issue in the Victorian Parliament, but it is indeed a broader issue that affects all Australians and Vietnamese. And for that matter, our responsibility as Australians is to make sure that we play our part as a global citizens of this world.
Actually, I thank Inga for your question.
I do hope that everywhere we go, the issue of human rights issues, very important issues for us. As the point will rightly point out, that we indeed, for the community, we put that as first priority. And wherever we go, including each of the state, we hope that it would be a bipartisan, so from whatever, regardless of whatever party that is from, would be a supporter from all parties anyway. Indeed, the 19th of September, we're going to have another briefing at the Federal Parliament House. We were planning to also meet up with a number that is very influential figure from the government side, including the Foreign Minister herself. This morning I received a phone call. We were trying to lobby with the Prime Minister's office so that we can meet with him, but I received a phone call saying that is not possible. Maybe we have
so long as you've not made a representation to the Federal Minister on these issues, that you're more than happy to land a few punches criticising the approach. Is that, so you haven't yet had a meeting with him?
Actually, we've had this briefing in Parliament, in the Australian Parliament last year.
A briefing is one thing, but a meeting with the Foreign Minister who represents the government on these issues is not something that's happening.
I'd stop being so divisive in that. I'd stop being divisive in here and just move on and listen to what people are saying. It would be a productive thing for you to do.
I'm sure Bonnie has met with many of the members of Parliament federally from both sides of politics, and including the Greens for that matter. On human rights issues, we don't differentiate between parties at all. We believe it is the right and the responsibility of each and every Australian, regardless of where we came from. Obviously, we have an interest in human rights because of the way in which we got to Australia, and because of the way in which the government, the Fraser government, and Mr. Malcolm Fraser in particular, have provided us that generosity to be living and to be successfully integrating in Australia. So we take our responsibility, particularly on human rights, very seriously. We say that all the time. Anyone who wants to listen, is willing to listen, and have the time to listen, we will do that, and we have been doing that on all sides of politics. This is our second year in the Victorian Parliament, and I'm sure the other chapters will be doing their part as well. Federally, we have done one last year, and we are doing another one on the 19th of September. And we are doing our best in that. We are doing our best. We are trying to.
Well, Vivian, as a person who hates communism and who escaped from communism and who shares the passion for freedom and democracy, I'd be more than happy to assist with facilitating a meeting with the Foreign Minister at a future point in time. But I'm surprised to hear that you're more than able to make criticisms of actions that haven't yet been fully taken.
I have been liaising with Tim Wilson office, and some of us help with the federal briefing soon. I have actually last week met with ministers for, Assistant Finance Minister, Mr. Honourable Michael Suka. Next week, I'm actually again meeting with Senator James as well. My colleague in Sydney met with the Honourable David Collins as well, and contacting various offices as well. So we are meeting with all sides of political parties. Good. Sorry. Yep. Okay. Definitely. We have arranged for a meeting with her already, so she has been accepted already. So thank you.
And we have written to the Minister for Foreign Affairs many times on many issues, way back in 2013, ever since I became an executive member of the PCAP, on the Oryx 981, on Formosa, on God knows what, and on how many human rights prisoners of conscience have been written to the Minister, and the Prime Minister, and the opposition leader, and the leader of the Greens for that matter. We have been doing this work so goddamn relentlessly, it's not funny. It is not funny. We hope you are hearing us, and we thank you for that support. And I thank Bernie Finn, Maury Thompson, and the Honourable Luke Donald, as well as other members of the Victorian Parliament here. And thank you in particular for having listened to all of us right from the beginning to the end. Thank you, Inga. I would now like to invite Father Peter Huang to speak on the specifics of the issues related to human rights in Vietnam.